Welcome to Excel Boats on the X Podcast, powered by Mud Buddy Motors.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
The only podcast to bring you insights on the world of hunting, fishing, and boating. With your host, J. Paul Jackson.
You don't say much, do you?
Now, load up and sight in. This is On the X.
Welcome to the Excel Boats on the X Podcast, powered by Mud Buddy Motors. J. Paul Jackson here today, joined by my co-host Dave Reynolds, who's back with us after a little time on vacation. We've also got Jeffrey Whitlock on standby, although I see he's got his mic muted right now, but he's ready to jump in just in case. Did a great job during Dave's absence. And then we've also got our lead engineer out there at Mud Buddy, Keith Mitchell, in here with us, who I have called Kevin before on the podcast. And if I do that again, I apologize in advance, buddy. I see you're calling in from your phone, apparently. I know you're in the office there, but we can hear you. We can hear you, but we can't see you, Keith.
Yeah. Technical difficulties with the computer. So I'm just a call in. Kind of like my buddy that was who's on there with us too. You can hear him, but you can't see him.
That would be Freddy King, would it be?
That would be that red-headed guy named Freddy.
I guaranteed it.
Hey, Freddie, yeah, man, it's good to have you back today, too, coming to us from Bald Knob, where I guess you've probably got all of, one bar of service today?
Pretty much. I'm actually just north of Bald Knob, northwest of Bald Knob over on the farm, and it's horrible.
Oh, you got to have a cell tower within 50 or 100 miles of
Well,
Bald
I mean,
Knob.
here's the deal. I do a ton of live feeds when I'm doing some training, right? So, and just to make sure that I can get all the way through a 10 or 15 minute live feed, I have both AT&T and Verizon. I have both, and I put my phone. I'm using AT&T, and then it'll jump over to Verizon. And don't ask me why it does that, but the uploads, never fail, but it won't stay on one very long. And you can tell when it jumps back and forth just by watching the video. One will be clear, one won't. But if you try to just use one, it'll drop every single time. It's horrible.
You just got to find that high spot there in Bald Knob. 200 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
That's about right. When that big meteor hits, they say that wave's going to reach all the way up here.
Yeah, right. I'll be going to the plant tomorrow. And one of the things that I hate the most and love the most about going to the plant in Mountain View is there's about a 50-mile stretch there where I lose cell service completely. And it's kind of cool because my phone that rings off the hook these days for a while won't ring, but it sucks too because if I need to call somebody or have something come up, I can't do it. So, it's a double-edged sword.
J. Paul, I'm going to cut in. I'm going to cut in real quick. Will you hit record?
Yes, I will.
Perfect.
Hey, and Keith, I think it's you.
Yeah.
Breathing heavy?
Yeah, I just ran in and told him.
You guys got me all excited because of my past knowledge.
Oh, my God. Oh, Lord. So, for those of you listening out there, we have the ability through Zoom, the video meeting tool that we use to chat with each other, too. And I just sent Keith a message telling him that we could hear him breathing hard.
Just hold your breath for about 30 minutes.
That's what I told Jeffrey. I gotta breathe. He's like, just hold your breath. I'll be dead.
Most of the times when you're doing video, it's like, what do I do with my hands? I guess when you're doing a podcast, what do I do with my lungs?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, man. I'll tell you what, I've been so excited about today. And for our regular listeners, you probably caught last week when we had Freddie on there. But if you didn't, you need to go back and check that out because this is part 2 or stage 2 of the On the X podcast featuring Freddy King. And today we got a bunch of different stuff that we want to talk about and don't want to draw this out. But we brought Keith on board today because Freddie, to a lot of people, is the face of Mud Buddy. And to a lot of us, Keith is the face behind Mud Buddy. And and I didn't mean anything by it. There was nothing implied by that, Keith. So we thought it'd be really cool to have two Mud Buddy experts on here, with us. Not to say that Dave's not, or, I'm probably the least of all the four of us as an expert, but, Dave definitely is. But
Yeah, I'm definitely not the face of the behind.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah, that's Keith.
Oh my gosh.
You guys forget who sends your parts. Remember that.
Oh, I guarantee you.
You guys need me a lot more than I need you. No.
Man, I run a Mud Buddy HDR. It never breaks down.
That's right. Never.
Yeah. But one of these days it might, so it better be nice.
Only time I have issues with mine is when I forget to put gas in it.
Come on, Freddie, you got to do better than that. I remember a couple years ago sending you a lot of parts.
Well, we was trying to rebuild. I didn't tell you at the time. We was trying to rebuild it, and we ain't no good at that. You might.
I just thought it. I just thought it was your videos from jumping, fever dams, and all that other kind of stuff that voids your warranty.
Hey, he's reformed, Keith. He's
that Freddy
reformed.
King, we put him in the box.
Freddie King. So we got the new Freddie. Oh, that's good.
This is the new Freddie, the more reserved. I'm even going to change my accent a little bit.
Yeah, didn't you do a video, Freddie, for the state of Arkansas on safe boat handling?
Well, I did some stuff, and then also I'm talking with a few personnel from Game and Fish, and going to get a lot more aggressive as far as trying to put the word out to a lot of these kids and the younger generation about proper and ethical boating. That's all there is to it, and as well, just having a stronger bit of respect for your fellow outdoorsmen out there. There's a lot of different things we can do to make everybody else's hunt, a lot more rewarding. And simple things like when you get to your spot, when you leave the boat ramp, go to your spot, get to your spot, stay in your spot, shut your motor off. Don't do a lot of running around. And when your hunt's done, wait. If you happen to kill out at 8:15, sit still, sit quiet till 9:45, 10:15. Let the bulk of everybody enjoy their hunt. Don't just run out, and mess up the morning for everybody else. And just simple things like that can make such a major difference, And it's all, and it takes every one of us. But we got to lead by example. And Freddy King's turning over a new leaf, Now, I'm not one of those guys that leave early because we don't ever kill anything that quick. But but there's a lot of other things we can do to educate, and as far just lead by example, just lead by example. And that's what it takes. There's so many young kids now that don't have the mentorship that we did growing up. And a lot of us were real fortunate with that. And a lot of us are a lot less fortunate. So we got to lead by example and be the person we want others to be.
Oh, amen.
Amen. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And we talked a little while ago, you and Jay Paul and me, Freddie, we were talking about Andrew Flair, who we had done a podcast with, and he's a big fisherman, and he's on YouTube a lot. He's got a big following, but he was telling us that one of his most rewarding things that happens to him is when younger people come to him and say, "I learned to fish from you by watching your videos." It's like they'll say things like, "My dad doesn't fish, so you're the one," and that's the way. And I think YouTube now, and with all the social media and everything else, we really do have to lead by example, and we really get this incredible opportunity to educate by the things that we do.
Well, you're 100% right with that, and I mean, don't get me wrong. TV is still a standard and that sort of thing, but today's younger generation is spot oriented. When I mean that, you know, their social media, their Facebook, their Twitter, their Instagram, they're all those things, and that's people in YouTube, and they turn to that for educational lessons nowadays. That's all there is to it, you know. And so with that, you got to provide an educational, I hate to say resource, but that's what it is, but an educational value to anything you put out there. Myself especially, I'm not saying that I'm anybody, but I do. There's a few people there's like 7 people that follow me, and you know, I just want to make sure that in the years past that I keep that Freddy King, you know, in the box, you know. But it's the times are changing, and we got to do that. I mean, duck hunting numbers in the state where we hunt are have grown tremendously, 2 to 3 times what they were 10 to 15 years ago. And you know, you have to watch your P's and Q's out there and be a lot more responsible outdoorsman, not just for your own, but for everybody else's hunt. You know, you want everybody to enjoy their time of field.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the duck hunting has become more and more competitive. Although you look at the overall numbers, and duck hunting numbers are down quite a bit down from in the last 20 years. I think there's certain areas like where you are, Freddie, and in Utah that's growing very rapidly, especially Salt Lake. There's more and more hunters, more competition. You know, all the more reason to be considerate of each other, and you know, so everybody could have a fun and enjoyable hunt. Yeah, I mean, you could certainly ruin a guy's day, or you know, vice versa. If you set up too close and sky bust and scare ducks by calling. Now, I don't, not that I do that, but any case, you know, there's more hunting pressure out there in certain areas, and there's no reason, you know, everybody can't have fun and have a good time in the outdoors.
Well, I mean, we need every single one of us, you know, so why not make everybody's experience that, you know, so that there's more folks involved in the sport, because we're under attack by antis and all that sort of thing, and we need every single one of our outdoorsmen brethren. That's all there is to it. And you know, and negative things out there, you know, do push a few folks away from the sport, and we just don't need that. We need as many of us out there as possible to make sure that the lifestyle that we grew up with remains intact for future generations to come. That's all there is to it.
No doubt about that. I mean, and I'll tell you, the politically correct crowd and the antis, you know, and PETA, I mean, we've got so many forces going against us as hunters, and it's alarming, you know, the power that some of these organizations are gaining while our hunter numbers are diminishing. Just this morning, I heard something that blew my mind. Did you know that under pressure from PETA, the company that makes animal crackers is they're going to continue to make animal crackers, and I'm not making this crap up either, but they are changing the packaging, and the animal cracker box that we grew up with, you'll no longer see it because PETA has raised Cain to get them to remove the pictures of the animals in the zoo. I'm not kidding. Now,
no, you're absolutely right. I saw it this morning as well. I read that article. I was just absolutely blown away, and I'm trying to remember the old animal. And I guess there were like kind of bars around them because it was a zoo. But man, but you know, I love that you bring this up though. I find it so interesting that these people, you know, and bless them, you know, really just bless them. But they think they know a lot, and they have a lot of passion for the environment and all of this. But I defy you to name me one of them that knows more about the area, the outdoor area that they live in, better than any hunter out there. You guys, like Freddy King, you guys know more about the area, and we discussed this last week, that you got to go out and you've got to scout. and you've got to know your area. You got to know where you are because things change with the water levels and everything else. You guys know more about the environment and how to protect it and keep it safe and pristine than any of these other people out there.
Well, hunters are experts in the game they pursue. That's how you're successful. You know the game. You know
exactly.
The dynamics of ducks, population, the species, their habits. Hunters are experts in the game they pursue, and non-hunters. They couldn't tell you anything about ducks other than, it's bad to kill ducks. But,
they know a lot
going
about
back to PETA, PETA would probably be fine if they had people crackers and just had people on the box.
No doubt. No, the greatest thing that PETA ever did was that campaign with all the actresses where they went natural nude for PETA. That's probably the only good thing I've ever seen. But anyhow, it's just I got us off track there, and I apologize. But it's gotten to the point of ridiculous where they spend thousands and thousands of dollars to have Barnum's animal crackers repackaged so it shows the animals free ranging. And if they're that passionate about the packaging on a box of animal crackers, just think of how they must feel about us.
Oh Lord. I mean, it's those people pretty much want to see outdoorsmen, hunters eradicated. I mean,
they'd want the opposite. They don't want us. They want us behind bars.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I say eradicated, I mean drawn and quartered. That's how badly they want us eradicated. But oh well, that's the sign of the times, and we've got to take care to educate the young, bring more people to sport, bring everything in a positive light, and keep those kind of people at bay. That's all there is to it. And the best way we can do that is just through social media and being an extremely, extremely positive role models. That's all there is to it.
Right. They've done a lot of surveys, and overwhelmingly the number of non-hunters still have no issue with hunting. They're fine with it. It's a small percentage that are deeply opposed. Majority of non-hunters are not opposed to our lifestyle or hunting.
And the same is true for gun owners too. I mean, there are a large majority of gun owners are not opposed to concealed carry laws or us owning guns, but we still, come under fire. I thought it was really, really interesting. Yesterday, for our expansion here in Tennessee, we had a visitor come in, one of the board members of one of the companies that we're working with on the financial side. This gentleman, he went to law school at Georgetown. He was educated at Howard before that. He's lived in Washington, D.C. his entire life. And I don't know how the subject came up on guns, but we were driving from a meeting over to a restaurant for lunch. And this man is in his, I'm guessing around 60-ish, and lived in the D.C. area his entire life. Very intelligent, very well-spoken, nice guy. He said, you know what, I've never fired a gun. As a matter of fact, I've never even touched a gun. The only time I've ever seen a gun was on some law enforcement person's belt or on TV. The only ones I've seen in person was where a cop was wearing it. And I just opened up the armrest there between us. He was in the passenger side of the front seat, where I keep my carry pistol, my 38 special. And I'm like, well, you got one right there live. And he said, wow. And, and we talked about the carry laws here, and he had no problem with it. It's just, even though he's never fired a gun in his life, and there are a lot of people that are out there like that. Unfortunately, it's the vocal few, that really, really get the press, and here's my take on that. Heck, if outlawing guns will solve, the crime problem, then maybe we ought to outlaw heroin and meth, and that'll solve the drug problem. See how that works.
Yeah.
Works real good. Works real good. Well, I mean, it's just, you can't. There's no reaching or touching some of these folks and their beliefs, and like you were saying, it's those that scream the loudest. It may be only 2 or 3 of them versus 5 or 6,000, but the ones that scream the loudest seem like society just gives into them. And I don't know, and that's not the way I was raised. That's most of my generation, wasn't raised that way. But for some reason, today's generation, they succumb to that, and I don't know. I can't figure it out, but it's definitely a change of times.
Yeah. And to go back to where we started, I mean, I hope that everybody out there listening realizes that this isn't something that we're just, on a soapbox preaching about. We've come to the realization through, different events. I know, Freddie, you were extraordinarily active in the, campaign to keep Arkansas from banning mud motors on game and fish areas. And that was very important. I mean, we've seen real attacks. So when we talk about this, we're talking about something that we have real life experiences in, and it can definitely, make a difference. The new mufflers that we're coming out with, if you're running one of our motors and you're running a non-stock muffler or a performance muffler, please, if you're going to hunt public land or where others are, replace that with a Q, one of our new quieter mufflers. We've made strides as a company. Keith, I know you've been very involved in this to quieten these motors down so we can be considerate of others.
Yeah, and going back to that, Arkansas, that was the primary reason for our viewers who don't know, for the ban was the noise of these motors. Boards.
Well, you get all these young kids who just take even their stock muffler and they cut the end off, they gut it, and now it's obscenely loud. And I remember being young, I liked noise, and in my elderly years here, I wanted to be performance and still give me the quietness that I need. And that's the battle that we're battling. There's a fine line between noise and performance and quietness. And that's what we're battling here all the time, is how quiet do we make it? How much performance are we willing to give up? But these kids who run these gutted mufflers and think that that's the best thing out there for them and their motor, it's not. It's harmful for everybody around them, including themselves.
Well, I'm the type that I don't want anybody to know where I'm going. So the quieter I can be, the better off it is. But, just like you said, the noise is a major deal. And I'm glad to see that Keith, y'all are really, really, really getting on this, because there are some improvements. But like you said, performance, we'll have to, we'll have to lose performance on some of these motors and that sort of thing. But as technology increases, so will the ability to do things that will quieten down motors even more so in the future, but we just got to get caught up.
Yeah, secondly, these motors are just getting better, plain and simple. They're getting faster, more sophisticated. Look at the EFI motors. I mean, those are head and shoulders over, the older carbureted motors. So, motors themselves are getting faster, more efficient, just smarter motors. So less and less of an importance on the exhaust and the little performance gain you get from exhaust.
And my thing is, and it just goes back to the old saying, out of sight, out of mind. If you can't hear me, you don't know I'm there. So I mean, that's just the way that I want my duck hunting to be. But of course, some of these motors that some of these kids are running. And just to kind of back up a little bit, I run a BPSQ, all right, and it's that motor has a low tone to it, and when you run it responsibly, is no more intrusive to other outdoorsmen than 90% of the two-stroke outboards out there running. That's all there is to it. I've listened to my own motor running, while somebody else was coming, shuffling people back and forth to the hole or something like that, versus other outboards. And It's no more. It's the way that you act with that motor and the way that you drive it that dictates just how much noise that a motor is making. So, but now with the same regards, like you're saying, there's a lot of folks that take that stock muffler and they cut it, and good grief, it's as obnoxious as it can get, and nobody wants to hear that.
No, it's good for the ducks though, Freddie, because it shakes all the acorns from the trees when they go through.
Yeah. That's a good one, Dave. Yeah.
That is.
That is a good one. Well, yeah. But I'm glad to see that Keith is really on that over there, and has been for what, probably last year and a half or so, hadn't you, Keith?
Yeah, it's something we battle with, just trying to find that balance that gives you a little bit of performance and keeps us under the noise ordinance that are out there. I mean, Arkansas was the one that was in the highlight this year, but there's 31 states out there that have these noise ordinance laws. And if people keep pushing it, they're going to start enforcing it. So now you're going to you think the fish cops are bad now, they're really going to be out there once they know they can start enforcing noise ordinance laws and start writing you a ticket. And you don't have to worry about your limit or anything like that. Now it's the noise. We've just, we're bringing some of it upon ourselves. There's always the few that make it a little bit tougher for the others, and it's just sad. And I always think of this, how fast do you need to get to your hole? I'm lucky. I hunt with a guy here at work who belongs to a club. So we don't have to be there at 4:00 in the morning and race to where everybody else is. Cause I don't hunt public land a lot. It's all private land. So I look at it a little bit different. There, it's very quiet, very restricted. But how fast? Why do you need 65 horsepower motor to get you to your hole?
Well, that's absolutely right. I'm just glad to see that y'all are making some pretty good headway, and because if we don't, I mean, it'll be continuing battle, and that's all there is to it.
It will be, education. If we can't educate them, we're just going to keep going backwards.
That's it.
And that's
requires
sad.
a heck of a lot of patience.
Well, it does.
You just got to be patient. I tell you, one of the most impressive things about the whole deal in Arkansas was the way that throughout it all, Freddie, and I'm fixing to brag on you, buddy, because I really do, know that you mean everything that you're saying, and the class that you demonstrated over the several months prior to the decision being rendered was pretty doggone impressive. And that's the way to do it. Kill them with kindness, make well thought out, logical arguments, and present it well and present it politely. And, you can get a heck of a lot further that way. And I think it showed by how well we did there. But speaking of the other innovations in the Mud Buddy motors, we got a couple of new ones, 25th anniversary right now. Tell us a little bit, Keith, about the 40 and the 50 and where they're falling into our lineup.
They're falling into the lineup right now, guys. They are killing us. We cannot build them fast enough. It's one of those things that we do on our little Facebook Lives that we do on Thursdays is talk about. It's like, we're not trying to say, or brag about what we're doing, but if you want a 40 anniversary or a 50 anniversary, don't wait, because duck hunters over the 10 years I've been here, they're not very patient people when the season starts.
Well, they procrastinate for one thing.
Exactly, Dave. They're procrastinators, and the day before duck season opens, they want to now. So the 40 and 50, just both flying out of here. The 50 is built off of the 40 EFI Briggs & Stratton. It's got some modifications done to the heads that we have done here. It's a 50-plus horsepower motor without doing a lot of internal stuff, and it runs the BPSQ. A couple of the features that are both on both of the anniversary ones that we're really liking and getting a lot of feedback is we've added the new trim switch into the base plate. So instead of trying to reach into the boat to raise your motor up and stuff, it's on the oil filter side of your motor. because I can never remember starboard or stern. And you can reach over there and raise your motor up and down
Starboard
just like you
or port.
can an outboard. Yeah, starboard or port. I don't know which side it is, but
I got to break in on that one, Keith. Come on,
I don't.
man.
I get
Come
guys that tell
on.
me that all the time. I can't remember. I'm a boater, but I don't remember. And then that momentary switch. I've driven a couple of the Mud Buddies in the last few months. We've got some of our test motors that have the new style handle with the momentary switch built into it. And then the marketing boat, which we run a lot, it doesn't have it. And it's really frustrating because once you've had something that's new style and you got to run the version that's only 3 or 4 months older, and you don't have that extra little gadget that you've grown accustomed to. So just some great little things that have made life here at Mud Buddy go crazy. It's just insane.
Even at that, lead times are about 4 weeks for new orders. So there's still plenty of time. And also, many of our larger dealers have an inventory of both 40s and 5,000s. But, for these guys hunting early seasons up in the upper Midwest, you don't want to hold off too much longer.
Yeah, procrastination will not be your friend if you're wanting something new. Yeah, they're just amazing. They've been good. The guys down on the floor are cranking them out as fast as we can. They're doing a great job. The engineer guys are always thinking ahead. And I think that's one thing that's put Mud Buddy ahead of our competitors is we believe we're the innovators and not the imitators. We're not waiting for somebody else to do something and follow them. We're trying to stay ahead of the game. And I think that's the 10 years I've been with the company. I think that's where we've always excelled, is we're always outthinking the competitors of what's the next big thing that we can do at Mud Buddy that's going to keep us at the top of the game. And that's where Glenn Foreman, the owner, and the engineers have done a great job.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that a lot of people aren't innovators. First of all, it takes money. You got to put a lot of money into, well, just say if you're changing up a prop style just to see how it works. I mean, you're talking about a lot of money for a new jig, and a lot of them hit the floor that don't cut the grade. So,
well, their definition of R&D is a little different than ours. Their definition is rip off and design.
Well, that's for sure.
And you talk about innovations that you get used to, like I love the momentary, the bump feature. And then I added to my boat, my personal hunting boat, the grab bar. I call it the old crap handle, the grab bar trim switch. And you talk about incredible. And the other day I went out with a guy and I was running his boat, and he's got a 37 EFI. Does not have that feature. Man, I'm like, how did I survive without this?
It's just like could you imagine even trying to go back to just your standard, bump switch forward without reverse? I mean, there for years. There for a couple of years when y'all were talking about reverse and all that, I said, what do I need reverse for? I've got a paddle. I can bump the front. Now it's like, oh my gosh, there's no way. There's no way I could go back with a surface drive motor without reverse. I mean, it'd be just like you said. Now that you're used to that on your old crap handle, your trim switch right there. I mean, there's pretty much no way you're going to ever want to run that boat without it.
Yeah, and let me tell you, if you've got an older Mud Buddy motor, this grab handle trim switch is made to adapt. You can retrofit it to older models as well, as long as they've got tilted trim on them. It's a game changer. It's worth, if we sold it for twice as much, it would be worth every single penny of it, because it's so convenient. It's an added safety issue. I know we're going to see somebody ripping it off before long too, but if it hadn't already happened, I just don't know it. But because it is truly a great innovation. And I think that is where, no pun intended, we excel. Bringing that out there. Of course, it helps when you got guys like you, Freddie, that, do R&D for us right there in the field,
Well, That's been a major part of the fun for XL and Mud Buddy over the years. But like I said, I'm dialing it back a little bit. So now I may have to somewhat, test items here and there, and I might get a little. Nobody's going to know about it.
I was going to say, Freddie,
nobody's going to know about it.
Don't put it on camera, Freddie. If they can't see it on camera, they don't know what happened.
I got an email the other day, and I think Dave and Keith, you may have seen this one too. I know Jeffrey did, about a upcoming video deal with, and Glenn was like, and no showboating. How did he say that, Dave? And it wasn't directed to me or Freddie, by the way. It was, totally somebody else that was doing something really nice for us. But
no hot dogging was the phrase he used.
Right.
No hot dogging.
Yeah.
No hot dogging.
Not on camera anyway. But honestly, I mean, hey, you got to test them, and if you don't push it to the limit, and if you don't have guys, that are willing to do that, I mean.
Well, it puts our products to the test. I mean, the F-150 Baja, you don't see, you look at their ads and they're getting air off of jumps, and and it, there's nothing like putting your product to the extreme test to improve upon the quality and design. And I mean, Freddie, you've done a lot for us, as far as you couldn't have a better R&D person than Freddy King out there in the backwoods of Arkansas.
I was always screaming disclaimers, but nobody was paying attention.
Closed circuit, do not try at home.
Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, there's too many that try to do what Freddie, and I get that all the time, talking to people like, well, Freddie does it. Like, well, if he jumps off the building, are you going too? It's like crazy. Yes. It's amazing what people will do and copy. And it's covered under warranty, right? That's my favorite line. I'm like, no, it's not.
I mean, there's duck hunters do stupid stuff anyway.
No,
no.
We do.
Hey, y'all, watch this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just in the act of the hunt, for some reason. I mean, we do stupid stuff. Like, well, we really need to get over there. Next thing you know, you're driving your four-wheel drive across the field, and you're pulling your boat, and now you got everything stuck out there. And before you know it, you got four more of your buddies' trucks out there stuck, trying to get one truck out. And so we're prone to idiotic moments.
And that's I have to remind you, that's 3:00 in the morning too.
Yeah.
Well, right. And I mean, and then the next thing you do, okay, let's unload this mule, let's hook to the boat, and let's pull the boat out there, and then we'll get launched. So y'all left all your trucks out there, and there's a cold front coming, and you're dragging, you're all pushing this mule and dragging in the boat, and it's taking everything you can get out there, and you get out there and you set up, crack it on, you kill a merganser and a, I don't know, a duck that most people don't even know what it is, but, and then the whole time it's starting to sleet and the temperature's dropping and all that kind of mess, and you got to go back, and you're dreading that phone call, and that phone call is to the farmer. Hey, we need you to get your big tractor out. And he comes out there and he looks at y'all like, y'all are the dumbest people on the earth. No wonder antis want to see us gone.
I think it's just bred into a duck hunter's DNA to make poor decisions when you really want to go. I mean, listen, we did a hunt last winter in the ice and stuff down in southern Arkansas, where thank God for the winch on the front of the F4, because we couldn't get in any further. The ice was too thick. We couldn't get the ice broken and let the trailer go through it to get into the water, which turned out to be too shallow. So one of us somebody had the brilliant idea to take the log chain from my truck, wrap it around a tree out in the bayou there, attach that to the back of the boat, and then snatch the trailer with the truck out from under the boat. And then when we did that, we realized we couldn't turn the damn thing around. But luckily we took the winch on the front of the boat, and we winched it all the way around, turned it around, and nobody ever thought about, okay, at the end of the day, how the heck are we going to get these out? Luckily for us, the ice, we left them in overnight. It warmed up and the ice melted, and we were able to get a trailer in far enough that we could take the winch on the front of the boats and actually use the winch on the front of the boat to winch the boat up on to the trailer. But, man, we've all made those. I'm not going to say how old I'm going to be next month, but I'm way into midlife right now. And I still find myself doing stupid crap during duck season that I know better than. What the heck's up with that, guys?
I don't know, but maybe now would be a good time to discuss like your top. Everybody, give us your top, the dumbest thing you've ever done duck hunting. Do you dare? On this podcast right now, I want to hear from each of you. You three big hunters. Dumbest thing you've ever done on a hunt.
I got a bunch of those.
Fred, we don't have enough time with Freddie here.
No, hell, me and Freddie are going to have a piece of college ruled notebook paper to start making a list. How about you, Dave?
Where do you start, man? I got to think about that. Yeah.
Hey, I'll go first because I'm not as experienced and been hunting as long as you guys. I went hunting with Logan, one of our engineers, young kid. I'm twice his age. He takes me down to Utah Lake. He hands me my gun, a chair, and a bag of decoys. The mud is up to your knees, and I don't know how many times I fell, but I was smart enough to put a jacket inside my waders, so when I got to where we were going, I could put on a warm, clean, dry jacket. And I thought to myself, you're 55 years old. What the hell are you doing to shoot a bird? But we had a great time. It was just, I'm thinking to myself the whole time, this is fun. And when the shooting started and the birds were flying, I forgot about all the pain and how cold I was until I turned around and we had to walk back to the boat that we left sitting out in the middle of the lake because we ran it as far as we could and it wouldn't bust any more ice. And we left the boat there and we walked back to the boat. I'm thinking, this is just nuts. But
you was ready to do it again the next one?
Oh, yeah. I was ready to do it again. I took a lot of ibuprofen that night.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever done, Freddie?
I've got so many I don't even like thinking about. There's some dumb stuff that I have done. I mean, we own a little bit of property on east side of a very, infamous wildlife management area. And I cannot tell you how many times I've driven in when you could not tell where the river was. And in the dark, and, everything looks like a one flat ocean out there, but just enough little sticks of weed sticking up to where you could tell the road. In just one wrong turn, you were going 50, 60 foot down. And in the dark, and I've had people, I tell them, follow me. And that's, that's stupid stuff. I mean, that's stupid stuff that you do. And you look back now on it and you're like, holy moly, that was probably one of the dumbest things I've done. But I mean, I've done idiotic things like trying to cross a slough with a truck and completely submerge it. I've done that twice. I mean, I don't like talking about it. I've pulled up to a steep ramp once, and I had an old Dodge, and I don't know how it bumped out of gear, but it went underwater on a ramp. So, I mean, my stories go on and on. I mean, not even going to talk about the dents and stuff that times I've been thrown out of the boat because of idiotic driving. Y'all seen half of those videos, but it's just probably, if I was going to guess, the number one dumbest thing I ever done was probably, we drove down to a pretty strong management area down south. I'm trying to stay away from naming names. You know what I mean? So we go down South Arkansas to this management area, and we get all our stuff, and there's three of us. Now, mind it, there's three of us, And we start getting our stuff out and getting ready and all that kind of mess. And the daggum warden pulls up there. And, warden's going to sit there. And we're the only boat that, let me tell you, there's some deer hunters there that we knew they were deer hunting. They were parked on the other side. But anyway, so we're like getting our stuff ready, getting ready to launch. And warden walks over there. What are you boys doing? Well, we're fixing to go duck hunting. And season had closed the day before. So that's about as dumb as it gets.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, and that granted, this is a long time ago, and that kind of thing. But I mean, this is probably 25 years ago. But I mean, that was probably my most stupid moment. But luckily, we didn't get out there, and then it was on the way out instead of coming in. Because trust me, we would have had a good morning. I guaranteed it.
I can't admit to really doing anything dumb duck hunting. Actually, I've been trying to.
Come on!
Come on!
But hey, there was this incident. Opening day at Bear River Refuge. Me and my buddy went out. We got out there early, get set up, and from miles away we heard this scraping noise down the road. Just this. And it went on and on and on. And we were at the boat ramp pushing our boat off. And this guy pulls into the parking lot. He had his canoe on a trailer behind his boat. His canoe fell off. He dragged that boat for probably 6 miles.
Oh, my God.
Needless to say, that canoe did not have a bottom.
Oh.
Opening day.
Opening day.
Fresh camo job on this beautiful canoe. Guy pulled up, no bottom to his canoe.
Hey, I've driven off with my shotgun on the back bumper of my truck.
Oh no.
Yeah, and luckily it didn't come off until I rounded a turn, and the inertia going around the turn put it in the ditch, and it was in a floating gun case, and I came back and found it. And I got back to the house, and this was just last season. I mean, I got back to the house and realized I wanted to clean my gun, and I didn't have my gun. Talk about a sinking feeling in your gut. Oh my gosh, man. I mean, that is, $1,700 Benelli Super Black Eagle 3 shotgun, and you have no clue where it's at, and you're in Arkansas. The dumbest, I can think of a bunch, but probably the stupidest thing that I've done in a long time I did just this past duck season. I had a spot that I really, really wanted to get to. And I went in there in my boat, and I was going to do actually some scouting. It was early mid-morning, and luckily it wasn't real cold. And I was going to do some scouting and have one of my buddies come join me that afternoon. So I took off in my boat up this little creek, and I got to a log jam, and I thought I would just Freddy King it. I've done that 1,000 times and go straight over that sucker. Well, what I didn't realize was that there was another log about 8 or 10 feet past the log jam that was just barely underwater, and I didn't notice the current breaking over it. So I made it beautifully across the first one, but I high centered on the second one. So I'm stuck right there. The current, I'm in the middle of it. I can't get it free. I can't get the prop back down in the water because the logs behind me are holding it up. So I'm totally, totally stuck. And there's nothing in front of me that I can attach my winch to. Well, I made second bad decision. I thought I'd just step out of the boat and, and climb up, because I actually had the 8-wheel Argo back at the truck, sitting back there. And, I'd assume that I was probably in about 2 feet of water. I floated my hat. I was stepped out of the boat. Boom. But luckily it wasn't cold. So I get out of the water, and thank God I had my wader belt on, and tight, so I didn't, actually just flood them. But I managed to get out, and that was, I can imagine if somebody watched me trying to get out of there, because my ass is all floated up in the air from all the air trapped inside the waders. I'm going downstream and grabbing stuff. I finally get out. I go back to the truck, I put on a dry shirt, a dry jacket. Again, it wasn't cold. I get on the Argo because I'm going to use the Argo to pull the boat off of the log jam. And I don't even stop to think about how the heck I'm going to turn it back around and get it back out the other way. Well, in the process, when I engage the winch on the Argo and start trying to pull the boat off the log jam, instead, the weight of the boat, the Argo sliding in the mud, goes into the creek. So now I've got the Argo in the creek. The sides of it are straight up and down where it's been cut out with a backhoe. There's no chance of those tires grabbing any bite and climbing back up out of that creek. I'm hooked to the dang boat. The boat's stuck on the log jam, and I'm still partially wet. About 3 hours later, my buddy comes looking for me because I'd ruined my phone as well going underwater. My buddy comes looking for me, and at that point, I'd managed to get the Argo out of the creek after floating probably half a mile with the current down it to finally get to a point where I could crawl it out. But on the Argo, I'd jacked around, trying to turn it because, you turn it by locking up one side, the linkage, and turning the others, that I'd wrecked the linkage. And so the Argo would only engage to stop and lock in the wheels on the right-hand side. So I had to drive back out through the woods with the Argo, going in circles a lot of the way, just behind paths, or using the winch to pull me through gaps that I couldn't otherwise get to. And it was just one bad decision after another. Trashed the Argo, wrecked the boat, dented the front of it, ruined a pair of waders.
And never shot a duck that day.
And never fired a dang shot that day. But I got a hell of an adventure out of it.
Would have been a different story if you got your limited greenheads,
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the really sad thing about, duck hunters and what J. Paul is telling us about is the really, really sad thing is the pure fact that it takes us twice to actually learn a lesson on something. We've got to mess up twice doing something like that before we say, okay, we're not ever doing that again.
I think in some cases we never learn. It's the draw of the greenhead,
It's like it's a disease. It's like after that you sit back and you look, J. Paul, you're probably like, what was I thinking?
Oh,
and then
my
2 days
gosh.
later, and I hear J. Paul right now. 2 days later, J. Paul's like, you know what? If I just hit that about 3 miles per hour faster,
I could have cleared it.
and here you go.
You are exactly right. I'll tell you what we did do. I did this early this summer when the water got dry enough, because I'm going to hunt that place this year one way or another. It ain't going to beat me. Now it's like a challenge. I borrowed a buddy's rubber tire backhoe, and I went down there and I dug that damn log jam out of that creek. I'm going to get through there this year because I'm going to get to those ducks there. But, man, we do. We make a bunch of bad decisions. But I tell you one that wasn't a bad decision. That was having you back on here again this week, Freddie. I mean,
Well, I've really enjoyed it, guys. And it's the duck hunter in all of us. It's why we love the sport. It's memories like that, no matter how stupid they get. It's ingrained in us, and I mean, it's those stupid times versus, the times that things work out. It's what keeps us going. And duck hunters that have lived the sport for a little while can truly attest to it.
You know what? If you haven't got a good story, maybe not quite that good, that was probably monumental stupidity right there out of me that day. But if you hadn't got a good story like that, you probably need to go hunting a bunch more, because a lot of times, that's the fun of it. I mean, I was madder than heck that day when I finally got done. I was mad at myself, nobody else really. But now I can sit back, and it gives us those great memories.
It's character building.
It definitely
That's for sure. That's for sure. I'd like to take me some of these new age liberals duck hunting.
Give us some character, huh?
It's like,
Yeah, that's it. But before we end everything, I'd like to get a few tips from Keith. You know, as far as overall general maintenance, keep things rolling nice and slick. You know, during the off season with your mud rig. You know, what are the most important things to do?
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna ask Keith that same thing, which it follows right into this stupidity. When you have a moment of extra stupidity, what is it that you need to be aware of with these motors?
Things you need to start thinking about right now, because we've got early teal season coming up. Then the big hunt starts for everybody, depending on your location, is oil. Keep the oil clean, keep it fresh. Micah and I have been talking. We're talking about every 25 hours. They're an air-cooled engine. Use an oil with a high zinc, a VR1. Micah likes, now the name just shot right out of my brain. Something with a high zinc content. That really works good with the flat tappet cams and that are in these motors. Fuel filters. Oil changes, check the oil. If you've got the HDRs, check that oil. Every time you change the engine oil, check and make sure you have transmission oil. Don't want you to get stuck out there. You run out of oil in a transmission. We all know what happens. A big one that is every year is my switch went out. I'm stuck in the middle of the water. Guys, they're $20 a piece. I personally would carry a trim switch, a clutch switch, and a kill switch with a small little group of tools, because as good as Micah and I are helping you on the phone to get going and back where you need to be, if you don't have any tools, we're good, but we're not that good. So it's just simple little things that you need to take care of. But right now it's making sure your boat's ready. Don't wait till the last minute. I know here in Utah, it's getting close. We're going to start seeing probably in 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks, because they'll wait that long. Everybody's going to want to come and get their motor serviced, and we can't do it. So take the time while you've got the time. Oil, filter, plugs, spare switches, just simple little things. They don't take up a lot of room. I hunt with Clint, who's our sales guy here. He has an old little envelope bag like you take to the bank for your deposits. He's got 2 spark plugs. He's got a trim switch, clutch switch, kill switch, flat blade, screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, a 1/2 inch, a 9/16, and a 3/4. That's pretty much your little emergency kit that you need to keep with you. And that'll keep your mud buddy going. That'll keep you from being upset and frustrated, because you can take care of most of those problems, whether they be at home or if your clutch switch goes out. If you've got a screwdriver, you can change a switch out in the boat in 15, 20 minutes. So it's just the simple little things. We all remember your gun, your shell, your waders. Wait, my boat's not ready. So, and that's something that, we talked about today for our Facebook Lives is, we're going to start talking about and going over and doing some photos here. And it's amazing. Here's your oil filter. Here's where you change the oil. This drains it. Just kind of go step by step, because there's a lot of duck hunters out there who don't know how to do those kind of things. But if they take the time, 30, 40 minutes to maintenance their motor, it just runs that much better, and you're that much happier. Trust me, I talked to a lot of unhappy people from September through January because of little maintenance things that they could have done to prevent them from having a good hunt.
Last but not least, it doesn't hurt to have a paddle in your boat too.
It's just simple little things like that. If you can't find ethanol-free gas, make sure you run some kind of fuel stabilizer, because ethanol doesn't really bother the EFI motors as much as it does the carburetor motors, which we have thousands and thousands of them out there. So use a fuel stabilizer. An ounce of preventance today will save you a lot of frustration when you're chasing that little bird across the sky.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I mean, fuel is one thing we talked about last time that a lot of people don't realize how important it is to stabilize that fuel. And even if you're running non-ethanol, if you're going to put that boat up and store it, you need to stabilize the fuel, because non-ethanol fuel still will break down over time on it, Keith.
Yes, it will. So yeah, stabilizer, and there's a bunch of them out there. Everybody has a preference. We use stable here when we test the motors. We use stable and dump it into the 5-gallon cans that we use when we pre-run everybody's motor. So your motor shipped to you, if it's still got a little bit of fuel in it, it's got stable in it already. So that's just a good preventative thing. And we know when we were going to talk about too up on our Facebook Lives is, about 1st of November, middle of November, everybody runs into, what do I do with a freezing throttle cable? Before it freezes, guys, pull the throttle cable off, tip one end into the ground and spray the other end until WD-40 comes flowing out the other side, and then put it back on. You're good to go. Water in the cable is what makes it freeze. And the ridiculous ways to get it unthawed, the urination one is the one that still gets me. One of the guys says, well, I just pee on mine. I'm like, well, that will work until it freezes again, you idiot.
And I can tell you something else, don't do. I just thought of another dumb thing. Gosh, I even hate to admit this. One morning at the boat ramp, I've thought of 2 dumb things. All right, so I didn't do the second one. Number 1, do not take a cigarette lighter and just try to run it up and down that cable. You're going to find that coating on that cable, that insulation, it does melt.
It will melt.
And that just makes your problem even worse. And number 2, for dang sure, don't do what we watched one guy do one morning, take a butane torch out, and he was just about to stick it up there and start trying to thaw it out. And it wasn't our motor, it was somebody else's brand, when his buddy literally knocked him down because he was fixing to stick that torch right beside the gas tank.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
And luckily his buddy caught that one.
Yeah, he's lucky his buddy caught it. But it's just, if you can get the water out of the cable will be fine, and that's what's in there. And so a little bit of grease on the end, WD-40 it really good. Put a little grease on both ends of the cable. That will help keep the water out. There's just simple little things that will save you from flying onto the bank or into the tree or things like that. So
common sense.
Guys, right.
Man, I said we were going to keep this short. We've been rocking for well over an hour now, but it's been great. Here's what I think. I think, Jeffrey, in 3 weeks, we probably need to bring in Freddy Part 3. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree. I've still got several questions. We were going to talk to Dave about the youth. He's got a son that's starting to duck hunt as well. We were going to get into that. We were going to get into a little more, Keith, with his steps for opening season and preparedness. That's kind of our whole campaign going on right now is prep for the season. So I think, next week we might have to do a part 3. I mean, there's too much.
Right.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, let's get the same gang together, all 5 of us back next week. And until then, we're going to do it again, part 3 with Freddy King. But until then, I'm J. Paul Jackson for Jeffrey Whitlock, Dave Reynolds, Keith Mitchell, not Kevin, and of course our own Freddy King. Thanking you guys for tuning in to this edition of the Excel Boats on the X podcast, powered by Mud Buddy Motors.